Good evening and welcome to the December 4th, 2019 legislative session of the Penfield Town Board. I'll officially call this meeting to order. I'll ask that you please rise for the pledge, and I'm going to ask that you please remain standing after the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to just take a moment. Last week, we lost a former supervisor of the town of Penfield. Anna Bunchu passed away. Anna Bunchu was our 36th town supervisor. She served in 1980 and 1981. She was also a member of the town board for many years, a member of the planning board, very involved with our historic preservation group and local history room. And I would just ask everyone if we would take just a moment to honor Anna Bunchu. Thank you. All right, we have several public hearings this evening. My first announcement is that if you happen to be here for the first public hearing, and that public hearing was to consider amendments to the zoning ordinance and the mixed-use development manual, that has been withdrawn and will not be heard this evening. So again, if you are here for mixed use, that will not be heard this evening. We'll move right into our second public hearing, and I'll ask our clerk.
Supervisor, should I do the roll?
Please, let's do the roll. Thank you.
Cole.
Hello, Faith. How are you?
LaFountain.
Hi.
Metzler. Here. Moore.
Here.
Quinn will be here shortly.
Okay, thank you. So now that we've got the record straight, I've recognized my friend Faith, who is joined by her father, who we'll hear from in a moment. I'll ask our clerk to please read the legal for this public hearing.
To consider ordering the demolition and removal of an unsafe structure located at 124 Beacon Hills Drive South. The legal notice was published in the Penfield Post on November 14th, 2019, posted on the town website and town clerk bulletin board. 68 postcards were mailed.
Thank you. And I'll ask our town attorney, is this properly before the board?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you. At this time, I would like to recognize counsel to the town attorney, Pete Weishar from McConnville Considine, and just ask that he bring us up to date where we are with this particular property. Welcome, Pete.
Thank you. For the record, again, my name is Peter Weishar, and I'm an attorney with McConnville Considine, Kuhlman & Moore, and we are counsel to the town attorney, and we are here today in connection with this public hearing. Also here this evening is Heidi Bale, who can answer any substantive questions we may have about the, oh, there she is. And I thought you were going to sit over on this side. I was looking all over for you. Any substantive questions pertaining to the status of the structure. So this is a hearing pursuant to Chapter 97 of the Code of the Town of Penfield in connection with a building located in the town at 124 Beacon Hills Drive South, SBL number 109.05-2-48. The hearing is being held because this board issued a resolution on September 25th, 2019, Resolution 19T-187, ordering the demolition of an unsafe structure located at this property. Under Section 97-2A of the Town Code, following an inspection of the structure located at this address, the Penfield Building and Zoning Administrator prepared a written report regarding the unsafe condition of this structure and recommended that this board order demolition and removal of this unsafe structure. And this hearing is pursuant to that chapter. I know that the board already has reviewed the report and has a lot of the information already before it, but I think kind of in the interest of making sure that the basic facts are reviewed, I want to just go over some of the highlights of the condition of the property and how it came to be where it is today as subject to this demolition order. And I'm only going to cover kind of the highlights. I know there were periods of time where the property was secured and the lawn was mowed. Sometimes it was mowed by neighbors, sometimes it was mowed by the property maintenance company. But I think it's important to know, some of these facts so that we understand how we got where we are. This, according to the complaint summary information, this property first became the subject of a complaint in August of 2015. A resident noted that the resident of 124 Beacon Hills moved out in April or May of that year and indicated that the lawn was overgrown and that there was a neighbor that was cutting the grass, and they had concerns about that. And they also noted at that time that the garage door and roof were falling apart. And so that's the first indication of where we have today. I believe this picture was taken this week, where you could see that the roof in the garage is caved in. There's references in August of 2015 that there was observed damage and deterioration to the overhead garage door. Door panels are open to the garage. There is deterioration to the roof of the residence and the garage. The garage roof was partially collapsed, and roof shingles are deteriorated, and soffit material is falling away from the structure. That was in August of 2015. Also, later in August of 2015, there was also observed damage and deterioration to the roof, soffit, and garage that was still there. In September of 2016, there was observed a ripped, deteriorated tarp on the roof, also observed a large hole in the garage roof. In August of 2017, the front door of the residence was found to be unlocked and partially open. Roofing shingles were scattered on the exterior of the property. The front garage roof soffit coverings were deteriorated and starting to fall away. And there was more, for the first time, observed deterioration and damage to the interior of the residence. This is August 17, 2017. By January of 2018, there was an inspection of this unlocked, unsecured property with the fire marshal, where they observed ceiling drywall fall into the floor on the first and second floor, covered with mold, debris throughout the property, insulation fallen from the attic spaces, and water pouring into the house on the second floor and garage where daylight could be observed. Building was posted not to be occupied at that time. In May of 2018, it was found that the front door was unsecure. In June of 2018, the home was again not secured. And some of the complaints also noted, so those were a lot of observations by our staff, but there were also complaints in July of 2016. The town received complaints about this property. And I'm not going to go over all the complaints, I just want to cover some of the highlights. In April of 2017, a neighbor complained about the roof caving in and the garage being boarded up, and having a concern about animals taking shelter at the property, including rats and squirrels. In April of 2017, they again noted animal infestation problem. In April of 2017, they also noted that residents were observing animals, including raccoons and possums, going in and out of the vacant house located at 124 Beacon Hills South. In June of 2017, the roof in the garage were again noted to be caved in and covered with tarps. Garage door was open and a danger to children. In January of 2018, the neighbor came in and complained again about the tarp falling off, a hole in the roof, concerned about children going into the house, and also animals, concerned about water and mold. In January 2018, the house was observed as also unsecure. Then there's references in March of 2018. The property management company was contacted over the course of this period of time as the property came into foreclosure, and there was a property maintenance company known as Safeguard Properties, and they had reported that the repair request made in March of 2018 was denied. According to our staff. This was the third time that it was denied by the mortgage servicing company, and they were informed that they were sending a final violation notice, and if there was still no response, the town would start the process to have the house condemned and subsequently demolished. In June of 2018, there was a note of trespassers removing the screws on the bracket and gaining entry. They were securing the door with an L bracket, and they were people who had apparently unscrewed that and gained access to the property. In October of 2018, Safeguard again said that the owner declined to have the tarp secured, and it was still in the possession of the homeowner, and he has the final decision according to the notes of our staff. In November of 2018, there's a note about how you can push the garage door and people can enter the unsafe, unsanitary building. In May of 2019, note of it being unsecure. In June of 2019, a letter sent to the owner, to Safeguard, and to the attorneys representing the mortgagee in the foreclosure requesting compliance. Again, contact in August of 2019, responding back from Safeguard Properties that they were unable to complete the work as they've not been given approval to complete any of the work at that time. So that was a month before this board considered and passed the resolution that I noted earlier requiring the property to be demolished. So in that resolution, the board ordered demolition of the structure to commence within 30 days and completed within 60 days after service of the notice required by Section 97-4 of the statute, of our code provision rather. And in accordance with Section 97-3B5, a hearing is required to be held not less than 5 business days from the date of service of that notice. We are well beyond the 5 days, so that provision has been complied with. So what this board has not yet seen is compliance with the notice provisions, and that's what I'm going to cover with you now. Under Section 97-4, the town is required to serve the notice on the owners and interested parties. Here, we did that by retaining process servers or a sheriff to serve the various individuals and entities. And I'm going to provide all these to the clerk in a moment, but I want to make sure that this is clear for the record that one of the two owners, Ronaldo de Jesus, I think is how you pronounce it, he was served by personal service on October 10th, 2019 by our process server, and I have an affidavit of service of that. Incidentally, what they were served with is a copy of a notice that was attached to the certified copy of the resolution. In addition to Mr. De Jesus, the notice and order were also served upon, I can find it here, the other owner, Stacy De Jesus. She had to be served in Elk Grove, California. So we retained the sheriff out there to serve that, and she was served personally on October 23rd, 2019. So we also served Wells Fargo as trustee for the mortgage holder, the mortgagee. Wells Fargo was served in, I have this right, Hughes County, South Dakota, which is where we had to effectuate service on Wells Fargo. They were served on October 21st, 2019. There's an affidavit or a certificate of service, rather, from the sheriff with respect to that service. So that satisfies the personal service requirement under Section 97-4A of our code. The code also requires that the notice and order and resolution be posted at the property, and that was done by Heidi Bale. on September 30th, 2019, and I have an affidavit of posting on September 30th. I, Heidi Bale, posted a copy of the annexed notice of demolition order and of hearing with respect to 124 Beacon Hills Drive South, together with a resolution and order upon each entrance to the structure located at 124 Beacon Hills South pursuant to Code Section 97-4B. In addition, our code requires, Section 97-4C requires that the notice and resolution also be filed in the Monroe County Clerk's office. I'm going to submit to you in a moment a copy of that documentation from the clerk's office, evidencing service in the clerk's office. That was filed on October 2nd, 2019. And that, again, is the notice of demolition order and the notice of and the resolution itself. And it's required to be filed, and the clerk's office filed it as they would a notice of pendency. So in addition to those required notice provisions, I want to indicate also that on October 28th, 2019, I served by email and first-class mail a copy of those same documents to the attorney listed on the foreclosure documents, Marika Dagonis of McCalla, Raymer, Liebert, Pierce in New York City, and also to Jason Hernan of Safeguard Properties. So by first-class mail and by email to each of them at those addresses. This was also copied to both of the owners by first-class mail at their addresses that we have in California and in New York for Mr. DeJesus. Finally, I understand that in response to that notice, I believe the town received an email communication from Safeguard Properties inquiring about the status of the property. We had trouble getting back in touch with them, but I understand that the supervisor did contact them back and explain the situation. And also, I received an email, actually a series of emails, and I'll include my email exchange with a paralegal from Greenfield Law Group in Boca Raton, Florida, representing the mortgagee, indicating that they would be having a local attorney appear on mortgagee's behalf tonight. So that indicates that the notice provisions were most certainly complied with. We believe we've complied with the procedural requirements of Chapter 97, and I'm going to submit these to the clerk. These are the documents that I mentioned, the affidavits of service and copies of the letter and email that I mentioned. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about the substance. Otherwise, I will turn it over to Heidi in case she wants to talk at all about some of the more recent photographs or if you have any substantive questions about the status of the property.
I'll ask the board any questions of Mr. Weischer at this time. I know that the board has had the opportunity to receive quite a bit of material on this. This matter has been discussed at quite length to make sure that as we go through this is actually the first home that has or would be demolished at the request of the town. So this is a process that we take very seriously to make sure I's are dotted, T's are crossed. So I would ask the board if any questions at this point for Mr. Weischer.
Mr. Supervisor, just one quick question for Mr. Weischer. Is the actions of the town and the actions of yourself within adherence standards and proper standards of New York state law?
I believe so. So our provision of our code is enacted really pursuant to a state law. So I mean, obviously our code is our code, and that has the force of law, but there is enabling legislation under Town Law Section 130, paragraph 16, I believe, specifically enables or authorizes towns to pass legislation just like our Chapter 97. And I know many towns have passed similar legislation, and in fact, I do know that other towns, particularly in the inner ring suburbs, have had more occasion to take advantage of these provisions. I was speaking tonight with an attorney for the town of Arundecoit, and I know that they've proceeded against a number of properties within the last 5 years, I believe.
Thank you.
Peter, we're very well aware of certainly the situation. Heidi's been great about keeping us informed, and I think
it's very frustrating for residents and for us as residents for how long this process takes, even given the fact that we took the initiative of passing the new resolution with respect to how to deal with the banks, basically, and the situation. But I just wanted to note that within the complaint action summary, I think what also frustrated the process or slowed the process certainly was not the condition of the house, but the fact that ownership changed hands, foreclosure started, and the taxes were being paid, and the bank took it upon themselves to hire some property maintenance company that did just enough, and it just seemed to draw it out, more completely. I think what also can be frustrating by the length of the process is that we have to recognize due process. And your service process, your notice, that's all due process required by law. And the timeframes are required. So some of this dragging out is because it's legally required that we do that to make sure that during the foreclosure process, someone is not on the steps of the Hall of Justice purchasing this property while the municipality is tearing it down, which happens in the city of Rochester quite frequently. So I think that's one of the areas I like to explain to people is our hands are tied by the process, but there are some safeguards for those who may be looking to purchase houses, even in this condition, and we need to make sure that notice is there so that the ownership doesn't change hands.
Yeah, if I could comment on that, Councilwoman Metzler, this property, from the complaint summary, I mean, the residents moved out years ago, and one of the residents relocated to California, and the other, I believe, is located in, maybe in Geneva. So they're absentee owners. The foreclosure action started and kind of seemed to drag on, as they often seem to do. And I don't even know what the status of that matter is, because when I looked at it on the clerk's website last week, it looks like one attorney in the firm filed a notice of discontinuance and a cancellation of the notice of pendency, and another attorney, it looks like they filed a motion for a default judgment. So it's very confusing as to what's happening with the property. And, ideally, we would not want to be the ones that have to take care of this, but we've given everybody an opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions by the board at this point? Okay. I'll ask, thank you, Pete. I'll ask our code enforcement, building, zoning, and fire marshal director if there's anything additional that she would like to add to the record before we open it up for further discussion.
I just wanted to,
And if you would, Heidi, please.
for the record, Heidi Bale.
Thank you.
Town of Penfield Code Enforcement Officer. I wanted to explain the pictures as they're posted on the board. They're all from this year. The top two, the top left, is the living room to the left of the front door. This is the bedroom right above this living room. You can see the mold. You can see the insulation that has come down from the ceiling. And then over on the living room, you can see the drywall and a bunch of mold that is taken over that part of the structure. This is the roof of the garage. This is from fall, and this was just, I believe it was Monday, showing the snow load on the garage and showing how you can still see the divots that was created in the picture from years before.
Okay, all right. Stick close to Mr. Weisshire in the event there are any other questions or comments. So before I open it up, and we'll do that in two forms. First, anyone that's signed up, I will get to them first. If you didn't sign up, we'll get to you next, so you don't have to rush the table to sign in. And so it is safe to say that this board is supportive of moving forward and having this property demolished. Hence the hearing, all the work by not only code enforcement, but our town attorney and counsel to town attorney. So the action, the ultimate action that this board is looking to do will be authorization of the removal of this building. And we will be looking to move forward with that and look to pass a resolution as early as the 18th of this month to make that happen. And then it is the interest of this board to have that occur very quickly and have that done very early, if not by the end of the year, but early into January of 2020. So with that, I'll ask our clerk, do we have anyone that signed up? And then from there, we'll ask anyone else that would like to address the board on this matter.
Lori Amos.
Welcome, Lori.
Thank you. Lori Enos, 16 Talbot Drive. So I'm a neighbor of this property. I drive by it numerous times every day. I'm also the vice president of the Penfield, or the Beacon Hills Condo Association, of which a lot of our residents are here just because they too drive by this property. I can't believe it's been almost 5 years that we've had this issue. It seems like it's longer because it just looks so terrible. From a property value perspective, we're not happy with that. And then we look at it as also as an attractive nuisance. All the number of times that it's been unlocked, you can see there's a lot of children in our neighborhood, and they're all at that age. And I know I was probably one of them too at that age, where I'd like to go in and see what's in there. Is it haunted? You know, whatever. That just before some child gets injured or worse, when looking at these pictures, it's just unbelievable. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are leaning this way. I just would like to have you know that of the 100 and, how many units do we have? 149, thank you, Bob, my president. We were all supportive of this action as residents, and think there's approximately, 1 to 2 people in each unit that are very in favor of this being demolished. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Lori. Good to see you. Is there anyone else that has signed up?
Not that I know of.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address this matter? Yes, sir. You first. You second, sir. And then your name for the record, if we could, please. Thank you.
David Sackmeister. I am the lucky neighbor at 126 Beacon Hills Drive, so I get to see this every day. And I have a million questions, but I understand a lot of what you said and where it's going, and I echo the whole township's concern of, from children staying there. I have a young daughter. I've had to keep her away from this for 5 months. She's had friends want to go in there, so it's been not only an eyesore, but a danger, obviously, and between the animals going in there and the tarp that they put up, just to let you know, lasts about 6 days, and then it's all blowing onto my yard, and I have to pick it up every week. So I've been waiting to see them and say, stop doing that, because it really doesn't do anything. But I have a ton of questions on how it got to that point, and why they couldn't find the owners, or why it wasn't even offered for sale. Honestly, if I knew 5 or 6 years ago that this was going to get to this stage, I would have mustered up some funds and got some people and probably tried to buy it out of there so that we could have renovated it and made it look good. But never offered that chance. We even tried several times to try to contact whoever it was. Couldn't find out who the bank was. So many different hands changed. I actually thought the owner had died. That's nowhere around. I couldn't even get a hold of him. His daughter used to babysit my child, but we never could reach them again. So good to know he's still around. So apart from those questions, I'm just more curious about, I kind of read through the demolition order, and from my standpoint, I want to know what it's going to look like after. Are they just filling in? Is it going to be land? Are they planting trees? Is it going to be used again at some point? And do I have to be concerned? I mean, there's some giant trees on that property right now. I don't know how they're going to get around those to demolish the property. Are those coming down? So those kind of things. I don't know if they've decided that yet, but those are some of my questions.
So we have actually gone out for bid. I believe the bid openings for demolition are due in next week. This board will review those, and obviously the thing that we do and we're required to do is to look at the low bid, the most responsible low bid for that. And again, depending upon what needs to be done by way of demoing the building, and to do that safely, all the material is going to have to be removed. It'll have to be landfilled. There may be some abatement that has to be done either from an asbestos standpoint or from a mold standpoint before they do that. And one of the things that we have spec'd out is that all that material, none of that material could be buried. All that material has to be removed. The concrete walls can be caved in to the basement floor. The basement floor has to be punched or holes placed in that from a drainage standpoint. And then what will happen is dirt and ultimately topsoil will be brought in, and the site will be seeded. There won't be any additional trees that will be planted. We'll make that site safe. And then the next thing potentially facing us is, who's going to cut the lawn?
Yeah,
because
I've been doing it before.
There's still a bank.
In case anyone-
There's still a bank involved. There's a property maintenance and what have you. And if the property is unkept, then we'll be continuing to look to have that done by the property maintenance, the bank, or some combination thereof.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you. My name is Nick Moralia. I'm the local counsel for Wells Fargo. They're an interested party.
Sir, I'm sorry, could you speak into the mic and say your name again?
Certainly. Nicholas Moralia, Miraglia. And I don't have anything substantive to add. Two quick questions. My understanding of the code is the cost of demolition will be assessed to the land. Is that the extent of the assessment? So if the town incurs a $50,000 bill, it gets tacked on to the tax bill basically, and then that gets settled at either a foreclosure or a private sale.
That is correct.
That's correct. And then would my client have the opportunity, assuming that on December 18th an order for demolition is signed, would my client have the opportunity to take the demolition, do that privately on their own? Because my understanding is there's a significant cost savings if the bank does it over if the town hires it out. Would they have that opportunity?
So yes, if the town has it done, we are required to pay prevailing wage.
Right.
And so that tends to add 15 to 20% plus or minus to the cost of demo. What I will say is that this board is determined to make this property safe, get it cleaned up, and to make that happen. So we want to continue to move forward with that. I would say that if the bank, property maintenance, and what have you, can make some assurances and guarantees, we would look at that. But again, make no mistake, this board is looking to have that property removed, brought into compliance, and cleaned up. So we'll continue to move forward with that. I would certainly encourage you to speak with our counsel to our town attorney, Mr. Weishar, on that matter. But again, we don't want that to slow this process down.
Right, but that is an option if we can come to an agreement.
Yep.
Okay.
And progress is being made, and things aren't being delayed.
Okay, thank you.
Yep,
And I would just add that I certainly am more in favor of the town handling this. I don't have faith in your client handling this. And I'm not here to save money for your client. So I will advocate that the town continues swiftly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address this matter at this time? Yes. And I would just encourage, anything new to add to the record, would encourage that. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Roberta Faustaferri. I'll have to spell my last name. Faustoferri. And I live at 125 Beacon Hills, right across the street from Dave. So I get to see this lovely property every day. I'm just wanted to echo what everyone else has said. I have sent in multiple emails to the town to ask about what's been going on. I'm actually quite delighted to hear that all of this has been going on, because I had no understanding whatsoever of anything actually happening, so thank you. I understand these things take time, so it's good to know that something's going to happen, because I have been concerned. I don't have any children, but there's a lot of children in the neighborhood, and it's an eyesore when I have company come over and from out of town, and they're looking across the street, and they're like, what kind of slum do you live in? So, just a thought. So thank you very much, and all I would ask is that, are we going to be notified when the demolition occurs? Because I kind of don't want to be around when all the mold spores go around. So that would be just a question.
So we will make sure that we work with the contractor, and when we know, we'll make sure that we get some notification. And
Okay.
so Lori is here as a co-chair or co-president of the homeowners association? Or-
Just the condo association.
Okay.
Because she lives in one of the homes that on Beacon Hills, we're in the center.
So what I'd like to do is that, if we could have a couple of emails,
course.
that would be the ideal situation, because then, depending upon weather and what have you, we could get a blast email note out to 2, 3, or 4 of you, and then I might ask that you cascade that down to your respective neighbors or the townhouse component of that.
How would I
or-
provide that to you then?
That would be great if you could get that, and what I do is, rather than just blasting it out on
Yeah.
Public TV and
Yes,
everything like
please.
that, maybe I'd ask that if you could just give that to the clerk, if you just write that down and give
I
it to the
can write it
clerk.
on the sheet.
Yes.
And is that all right? And
That would
I'll
be-
give it
That would
to
be
you?
perfect.
That
Thank
would
you
be
very much.
fantastic.
I'll give you my card, it's easy.
So,
Okay.
thank you very much, Roberta, for that. And then we can get emails out. That certainly is a lot quicker than doing a postcard, putting that together, getting it out, making sure that the postal service is doing their due diligence of delivering the mail on time and things like that. So emails would work well. So thank you. Okay, is there anyone else at this time that would like to say something regarding this particular matter? So I'll ask our town board, is there any additional questions that you might have for Mr. Weisshire at this time? Okay, so let's talk about next steps. The next steps that this board will be looking at is that we have a work session next Wednesday. Our next legislative session is on the 18th of December. This board will be looking to put forth a resolution to move forward with the demolition of 124 Beacon Hills. The other thing that the board will be looking at is awarding a contract with a construction company to do that work. And those two resolutions will be one after the other on the agenda for the 18th of December. And from that point, as I had mentioned earlier, the thing that this board is looking to do is to continue to move this along in an expeditious fashion to get this property cleaned up. Okay, so those are the next steps. You're welcome to attend our work session, anyone. You can watch it on Penfield TV as well. You're certainly welcome to come and listen to the town board meeting on the 18th, where the board will be looking to pass a couple of resolutions on this property. Okay, seeing no further discussion on this matter, I'll officially declare this public hearing closed at this time. You're welcome to stick around if you have nothing to do. There's some very stimulating and exciting things that go on at these meetings, and so if you're looking to get more involved with local government or just would like to see how things work, please stay and join in. If not, drive safely, have a great holiday season.
Thanks for coming.
So I'm just going to ask, because we have another public hearing, I'm just going to ask that if we, if folks would like to stay around, I'd invite you to our rotunda. If you want to chat, we got our Christmas tree up, and the holiday festivities are starting to take place. We'll give you about 30 seconds to get out of the room comfortably, and then we'll move on to our next public hearing.
It's very frustrating, very frustrating.
Thank you, Pete.
Thanks for coming.
Sure, sure. Did you fill out the fronts as well? Yeah, the whole thing. And since we're about to start that meeting, the second part, if you want to just sit over there and then bring it to me. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so we will, and I'd ask Mr. Costello if you wouldn't mind maybe pulling one or both of those doors. We can give folks an opportunity to chat, but out of respect for the next applicants, we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to present appropriately.
No, the meeting is going to continue for the next public hearing.
Just give it a pull and it'll come by itself.
The rest of the meeting, and which we should go through pretty quickly. So would you like to sit and then, yes, then have a seat in the front? Okay. We have an Eagle Scout to be here,
Okay.
Kenneth Jacoby. Okay.
Okay, we'll continue on with our public hearing, and I'll ask the clerk to please read the notice for public hearing number 3.
To consider a conditional use permit to allow a seasonal tent in the outdoor area at K2 Brewery located at 1221 Empire Boulevard. The legal notice was published in the Penfield Post on November 14th, 2019, posted on the town website and town clerk bulletin board. 7 postcards were mailed.
Thank you. And I'll ask Mr. Horowitz, is this properly before the board? Yes, it is. All right, thank you very much. I'll ask the applicants to come to the podium as you're doing that, and before you introduce yourself, I will just, for the record, I'll just indicate that the board is in receipt of the materials that were submitted. On behalf of this application, the board has had an opportunity to take a look at it, not only the material that you submitted, but also through the discussion that we've had at work session. And with that, what I would ask, again, for the record, that you identify yourself and then indicate what you're proposing, and we'll move on from there, and then we'll get into any discussion dialogue to fill in any of the voids or question marks that anybody might have. So welcome.
I'm Kyle Kennedy. This is my mother, Lori Kennedy. She has headed up this project, so I'm going to let her talk about this.
Wise man, right?
Like your jacket.
Hello. Appreciate the work that you guys have done to help us walk through this process. So K2 has been looking to put up a tent in the back of our, in the beer garden of our brewery. The purpose of this tent is to, of course, extend the area for people to be able to go out and enjoy during the cold, snowy winter months of Rochester. So we are thankful that at this point we were able to get a 3-week permit, and we got the tent up, and it's working very well. It turned out very nice. We've had it inspected. Heather was there and inspected it. We did have Jeff come before we finished to make sure there wasn't anything that he had a question on, and then she came and did the final review. At this point, we're just hoping to be able to use it to not only help the patrons that come, but to help service our community.
Okay, and if you will, for the record, there are 2 tents that are located. They're kind of connected, but not, I guess is probably the better way to say that. And for the record, could you describe those tents, the size of those tents that you have up and are proposing to keep up for the winter or the snow season?
We plan to have it down by the end of March. The first tent is 66 by 33, and that one is where we have our picnic tables, and then the other tent is covering our cornhole, and that is 42 by 33. And that area really is solely just our cornhole, and we do plan to have a winter league during the weekday. So.
Okay. And as you indicated, the town staff, fire marshal, did in fact inspect The heat for the building is being proposed, as I understand it?
Yes, it's exterior heaters. They had asked us to have it on the outside. So they are 170 BTUs. They provide the heat. We're able to keep it at about 60, 65 out there without any problem.
And that is LP?
No, natural gas.
So that is actually natural gas
Yes.
heaters? Okay.
The same gentleman who connected our fireplaces, we took the same connections and he used them to connect to our heaters during the winter so that we can just do the quick connect back.
Great, okay. And those units are on the outside. There's some sort of an elephant trunk that provides the heat
That is correct.
into the tents themselves. So from a safety standpoint, those are separate and distinct from one another so that in the event of a problem, that's not in an area that's being occupied.
Yes, they required them to be 10 feet away.
Okay, and from an exit standpoint from the tents, I'm guessing there are at least several different exit points that were set up, again, to make sure that in the event of a problem or an issue that folks get out safely?
Correct. There are 4 exits, but only 3 are legal because one would take it back through the brewery, so that's really only considered more of an entrance. And then we have 3 exits, 6-foot doors, and there are 3 separate ones, two going in 2 completely different directions, and then one coming, 2 of them exit to the same area going out.
Okay.
And they will be, we've been maintaining it to make sure snow is removed and everything for their full path.
For the safe passage. Okay, got it. And then within the tent areas, there are no plans or intent to have any cooking facilities, barbecue, burgers, hots, anything like that?
That is correct. There'll be nothing out there, nothing used for cooking in that area. That will only be in our kitchen, which is inside the brewery itself. People would take plates out and go eat out there, but it would not be.
But they would not be prepared there.
Correct.
And then there are a number of fire pits that are out there. Those are closed for the season?
Correct.
Is what I'm assuming?
Closed and covered.
Closed and covered at this time. Okay. And you had mentioned that the tents would be up through March?
Correct.
Okay. So I'd had a note from the fire marshal that I received that indicated that that under the building code, that if a tent is up longer than 6 months in any year, it is no longer considered a temporary structure in the tent, and that the building would need to be sprinklered. So just confirming that it will be up for approximately 4 months.
Correct.
Is what's being proposed.
Right.
Okay. All right. Board questions for the Kennedys?
Is the music that you provide, is that going to be out in the tent?
Yes. Just like we did during the summertime, but it's not outside, so it is, they wouldn't be able to hear it. We're still within the 7 to 10 time frame, so that we're under the noise ordinance. But we would still continue to have the music there, yes.
Very good.
Just a quick question on the, so if all goes well, your intention is maybe to do this again next year as well?
Every year, yes.
And so I know that this year was a little bit of a later start. When would you anticipate having the structure actually go up, and then assuming that mid-March, end of March takedown?
Beginning in November.
Beginning of November? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just like this last year, we usually have good weather through the end of October, so we wouldn't want to put it up till the beginning of November. This year, we got a little bit of early snow, so it made it a little bit harder putting it up later, but yeah, so we would like to do it right about the beginning of November.
Okay. And so the reason I asked that question was just to clarify, because Mr. Supervisor mentioned a 6-month time period. Is that a 12-month window, or is that a calendar year as far as the 6 months?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm not going to try to interpret that. The note that I have is that considered 6 months in any given year. and I would look to our code enforcement, fire marshal aficionado, and just ask the question. It's a calendar year.
I asked more for, I think, your point of reference, just to keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
As you look at mid-October, if it stretches into
Yeah, we
mid-April,
wouldn't.
now you're starting to push the
Correct.
codes. Okay, very good.
So one of the questions, concerns I know that has come up is with regards to parking. So there is a certain square footage within the building. And again, I recognize that the square footage of the patio hasn't changed, but covering the patio. So plans for parking, overflow parking, those types of things, and particular actions that you have taken or plan on taking to handle your parking.
Yep, we did hire a real estate agent, and he is working through local properties that we would be able to use to be able to resolve that as a permanent solution. But at the present time, because we did have permission to use the road, we did, put the gravel down. We made sure that we have parking attendants there, and it has been going very well.
I'll ask, has there been, that you're aware of, has there been any complaints from any of your neighbors during the last several months as you wound down your, what I'll call your spring, summer, fall season, now that you've moved in with the proposed tent? Has there been any concerns, issues raised by any of your neighbors?
None. May I ask you, has there been any concerns given to you by our neighbors?
I'm going to look to my friend, Mr. Costello, our Development Services Director, and Heidi Bale, who is our Fire Marshal Code Enforcement. And I have not, or my office has not personally, so I will just...
Yes, Jim Costello, Town of Penfield. Since they've opened, I've received one complaint. And actually, the complaint came, and it was not their fault. It was a race that was being conducted by the Yellow Jacket Group, and they were parking along Wilbur Tract Road and in their parking lot without permission. And that was the issue, and the neighbors called about that, and I had to call the neighbors back and explain to them what had happened, so they understood that. But I have not received any complaints. I was down there the other day taking some photos for you. The roadway is clear, it's clean. They did have some no parking signs placed along the east side of the road, so they've been vigilant about keeping people off that roadway area.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Costello.
Just one question to them, though. Since you've installed the tent, I think it was around the 18th of November or so, what kind of frequency of people have you been getting in there on a day-to-day basis or a nightly basis in terms of numbers?
This time of year, we've been slower. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we'll pick up. We have a handful of catered parties, people that we do business with through our payroll companies and different things that are coming in and celebrating their holidays and spending money at our place.
Christmas parties.
But beyond after the first of the year, most people practice dry January to health fitness, and everybody kind of takes the hurting at that same time. So between January and St. Patty's Day, we don't expect much than our regular patrons that support us and local groups that come in and support us. But for the winter, we don't expect nearly the capacity that we had during the summer.
So craft beer isn't considered wellness?
No. No, not usually.
All right.
Thank God we don't have to put the calories on there.
Yeah, right. It's all about those calories.
Jim
Okay.
asked me to address the issue this last summer. We did have one day when school had just started. It was sometime in September, where the parking became very full. And some of the people took it upon themselves to park on the main road.
On Empire Boulevard.
The only reason that it happened, and we've tried everything to avoid it in the future, but the reason that had happened at that time is that it was 3 different schools had shown up, and the teachers came right from school, and every single one of the people that were there drove in a separate vehicle. And so when they all show up that way, and it was right after school, so it was between the 4 and 6 o'clock time frame, and by 6:30, they were all pretty much gone. But it did cause a major congestion when everybody that came, every single person drove, which is not a common thing. You know, most people, it's 2 and 3 and 4. And even which Wednesday was a very busy day before Thanksgiving, we had a numerous, which we encourage all the time, a numerous number of people who Ubered in. And which is wonderful. And in fact, I don't know if you had heard, but MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, had actually put a promotion out there and gave a $10 discount on Ubers between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. So for that night, most of the people Ubered in and Ubered out, which we were very thankful. To me, that's credit to them.
Right.
But,
Absolutely.
and we encourage our patrons as much as they can to do Ubering.
Okay, great, thank you. Heidi, and just so continuing on the thread of any complaints that have come in, anything from your office that has come in or any concerns?
DPW. DPW has expressed concern with the parking up in the easement, right outside front of the building. There's a couple cars, and I drove by Wednesday night and observed this as well, that there was 2 cars parked in that area where I think it goes down to the sewer house.
Goes to our pump station.
Yep.
Goes to our pump station. Yeah, we're going to be looking to put up some ballards and a chain across there, because if we have problems, one of the first people that are going to know that we have problems is going to be your establishment, and that manifests itself in typically sewage bubbling up from the lowest spots. So we need to make sure that we keep that open. We can get there. There is a wet well in all of our pump stations, and it's alarmed properly. But if we can't get in, get things taken care of, wet wells fill up and what have you, then they tend to burp in other places. And in your interest and in our interest, we'd prefer to be proactive in addressing it versus reactive and cleaning it up. So, okay, thank you, Heidi, for that. Thank you very much. All right, board, other questions for the Kennedys?
No, I have no questions.
No, I just would like to put on the record, I'd like to thank the applicants for putting together a very thorough application with photographs, which are always nice because it gives us some visuals of what you're talking about, and providing the information that helps us make a decision. Not all applicants provide that abundance of information that what this board needs to do to make a decision. It looks like things are working pretty well at this time, which is a very good sign. And look forward to the discussion, I believe, next work session. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And certainly moving this forward as far as I'm concerned. So thank you for being so detailed-oriented in your application.
Thank you.
Hey, I have a question. How long do you have those attendants stand there? When do they come out, and when do they leave? The attendants for parking? I say this because I went down there to see what the tent looked like, and it was like 1:30 in the afternoon, and they were already out there. I was very impressed by that.
Thank you.
But-
That was on a Saturday then that you were there. So Saturdays, we have them show up at noon.
Okay.
So they work from noon until 10 o'clock at night. During the week, especially when cornhole's going, but right now, Mondays and Tuesdays are extremely slow until cornhole starts. So we don't have anybody Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday, they do it from 4 o'clock, 4:30, because there's school teenagers, I didn't want to call them kids, school teenagers that are coming and working. So as soon as they're out of school, they show up sometime between 4 and 4:30, and they're there till 9:30, when we're sure that no mad rush would be coming in to fill the parking lot. So, yeah.
Thank you.
And then on Friday nights, they're there until 10, and again, they start right about 4 o'clock, and they're there till 10 o'clock at night, and then Saturdays from noon until 10.
Very good. Thanks.
Other questions, boards?
Okay, so sit tight. I'm going to ask our clerk, did anyone sign up to speak on this particular application?
No, they did not.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this particular matter? Okay, seeing none, I would ask Mr. Costello or and Ms. Bale, is there anything that you believe should be added to the record that hasn't already been added to the record this evening? Okay, and then I'll give the applicants one last opportunity. Is there anything that you would like to add to the record that hasn't already been added to the record on this application? Okay, so seeing no further comments, questions, let's talk about next steps before I declare this public hearing closed. The next step is that the town board will meet next Wednesday night. That will be the 11th. We'll meet here at 7 p.m. in a work session. That'll be the next opportunity to discuss this matter. I know you're familiar with the process. And then the board will look after that discussion, look to advance a resolution on the 18th of December. Again, you're welcome to attend both of those sessions. You can kick back, watch it on Penfield TV, whatever your pleasure is. Again, seeing no further discussion at this point, I'll declare this public hearing closed. Thank you very much for your time. We'll move on in our agenda with communications and announcements, and I'll recognize our clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The Hanukkah holiday begins at sundown on Sunday, December 22nd, and will continue for 8 days through Sunday, December 30th. In celebration of Hanukkah, the town's 6th annual outdoor menorah lighting ceremony will take place Thursday, December 26th at 5:30 p.m. at the Four Corners of Penfield in Shuffleburger Park. This event is open to the entire community. Donuts and potato latkes will be served to all who attend. Also, the town and county tax bills will be mailed on Tuesday, December 31st, 2019. Those that wish to pay it on that day can do so at the Town Hall Tax Office. If you would like to have your tax bill sent to a temporary winter address, please call the tax office at 340-8626.
Great, thank you. Mr. Quinn?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. 2 announcements. First, mark your calendars for the next Flapjack Saturday Community Fundraiser to be held Saturday, December 14th, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the First Baptist Church of Penfield, located at 1862 Penfield Road. Come join Santa for an all-you-can-eat breakfast served consisting of delicious pancakes, pure maple syrup, scrambled eggs, sausage, and more, all for just $6 per person. The December fundraiser proceeds will directly support the Open Door mission. For more information about the First Baptist Church of Penfield and their upcoming December 14th fundraiser, please visit www.fbpenfield.org. And second, just a safety reminder, if you have a hydrant on or near your property, please make sure you or someone in your neighborhood will keep it clear of snow and ice during the season to allow easy access and unrestricted access by firefighters in the event they need to connect to it in case of an emergency. Keeping hydrants clear will save valuable moments. Our volunteer firefighters thank you in advance for helping them help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Messer.
I have just one announcement this evening. As the holidays are approaching and everyone begins their search for that perfect Christmas tree, please remember to shop locally right here in Penfield for your special tree. Several farms in East and North Penfield offer cut-your-own tree, as well as a selection of pre-cut trees for your convenience. Also, local scout troops are offering trees for sale. This holiday season, make a difference in our community by shopping locally and supporting our local farms and scouts. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The Penfield Trails Committee will sponsor a free guided hike at the Nature Conservancy 1,000 Acre Swamp on Saturday, December 14th at 10 a.m. The hike will guide through the paths and boardwalks of the Nature Conservancy's 1,000 Acre Swamp. The guide will emphasize winter nature lore, such as identifying trees in their winter dress, looking for tracks if there's some snow, and other signs of animal. 1,000 Acre Swamp is located next to the Penfield Volunteer Ambulance at 1587 Jackson Road. Participants should park in the ambulance base and follow the hike signs. All participants are asked to pre-register for the December 14th hike by calling Penfield Recreation at 340-8655. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Cole?
I have two items. The annual Wings of Light Luminaria and open house at the Shepherd Home, located at 1559 5 Mile Line Road, is coming up on Monday, December 9th. The Shepherd Home is a two-bedroom home that operates under the hospice philosophy, providing 24-hour care to the terminally ill in a residential setting. Please join the Shepherd Home on Monday evening from 5 to 7 in a remembrance of your loved ones, to honor them for the angels by ordering your luminaria online. And that's at www.shepherdhome.org. There will be lighting and displays of luminarias on the grounds of the Shepherd Home. Refreshments will be served, and everyone is welcome. And my other announcement is my last community chat of the year. It will take place Tuesday, December 17th, 5:30 to 7 in the new book area at the library, if you'd like to come and talk about anything happening in Penfield. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to our public participation section of the agenda. You can address the board on any matter. You can do that one of three ways. If you're here in the audience, you can come to the podium. You can call in at 340-8771. You can log on at penfield.org. And so tonight, I'm going to recognize we have a scout with us that has come in tonight. I'm guessing he's working on one of his many badges that, and working hopefully towards his eagle, which would be terrific. We have an Eagle Scout sitting here at the dais and continues to remain very involved with scouting. And Mr. Jacoby, if you would like to maybe let us know what you're working on and any questions that you might have for the board so that we can make you as successful as possible. So come right up, and because we tape this, we want to make sure that we show all your good looks on TV. Everybody can see the upstanding scout and citizen you are, and give us a little bit of an overview of what you're working on.
Absolutely. Okay, so what I'm working on is called Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge, and basically what it entails is me going over the requirements necessary to basically prove I participate in my community. And one of those requirements involves doing a conservation project, which I've been working on over at the East Side YMCA for a few weeks, a couple weekends with some of my friends. We built larger garden beds in their garden, and there's an irrigation system there too, so that's helping the organization. And there are elderly senior gardeners who tend to the garden, so they don't have to bend over as far since the garden beds are raised now. But yeah, no, overall I was really impressed with the procedures here and the civility too, and I appreciate you guys having me, so thank you.
Absolutely. Any questions for us that we can answer? We can help in any way to make you successful or more successful for this merit badge?
Well, another requirement in the merit badge involves interviewing a board or committee member about a certain issue that I believe is critical and vital to our community. And so one of those issues I would like to look into specifically is either education or environmental issues, and who runs those, who takes care of those. I know this is the pictures that were on the board definitely might have been an environmental concern because of the molding that was being discussed, some of the asbestos issues. But I would definitely love to speak to whomever I could about that.
Okay.
But otherwise, thank you.
So we would be happy to put you in touch with any one of a number of folks here in the town hall, from myself, Councilwoman Metzler, who is here but will be moving on as one of our town justices, but serves as liaison to the Conservation Board and has been very involved with that. And we've got a couple of our staff members upstairs that are very active on the environmental front. Mark Valentine who's our town engineer. So we would be happy when you have whatever time you'd like during the course of any given week, after school, anything like that, be happy to set that up and make that happen for you.
Absolutely, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Excellent. Great. Okay. Welcome. And then, Mr. Moore, any words of wisdom as our Eagle Scout? And
Stay with it.
We're almost done. We're almost
It
there.
gets grueling towards the end, Star, Life, and then Eagle, but you definitely continue on, and it's well worth it when you're done.
Yep, thank you.
Just finish doing what you need to do to get that Eagle rank.
What troop are you in?
Troop 260. Yeah.
very good.
Certainly let us know when you achieve your Eagle and when you have your ceremony.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
We try to get to everyone that we can possibly get to, because it is quite an accomplishment, and you are our future, and so any way we can support you, we want to do that.
Thank you.
All
That
right.
means a lot.
Thanks for coming.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks. Appreciate it. All right. I'll next recognize our town clerk. She received an email that would like to be added into the record under communications and announcements. Or, excuse me, under public participation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. These are questions by Robert Peterson, 1931 Clark Road. First question: as a neighbor of Shadow Pines and the Clark House, and as a member of the Shadow Pines Land Use Advisory Committee, I would welcome an update on the board's efforts to develop plans for the best use of these two properties. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one interested, since nearly 7,000 townspeople turned out for the referendum approving the purchase. Also, he asks what is happening or planned for the Clark House and Barn. The RFP for the Shadow Pines Conceptual Master Plan calls for the consultant to participate in a public informational meeting to allow the public to review the draft plan and provide input before the final plan is prepared. We are now a week and a half past the plan's anticipated completion date of November 22nd, 2019. And then finally, last question: when will the informational meeting be scheduled for the public to review the draft Shadow Pines Conceptual Master Plan?
Okay, thank you. And for the record, a number of these questions have been updated through my column and through the supervisor's info section on our website. However, what I will do is I'll respond to all of these questions to Mr. Peterson, and I'll also have that as a lead-in for my column for next week as well, so it gets shared across the community. As he indicated, there's others that may in fact be looking for some additional update. All right. Seeing no one else in the audience that would like to address the board on any matter, no phone calls coming in, we'll move on to our additions and deletions to the agenda. Does the board have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, we have the approval of the November 6 minutes, 2019, and want to entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
I move that the minutes of November 6th be approved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler? Aye. Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. Petitions. Has the board, town attorney, or town clerk received any petitions since our last meeting? Okay, seeing none, this will bring us to resolutions by function, and we'll start with law and finance. I would just indicate to our scout if he would like to follow along. We do have the resolutions here, and if you'd like copies of any of those resolutions as we go through, you're welcome to have those. And we'll start with law and finance.
Okay, you can take those. Reclassification of trust and agency accounts per GASB 84.
Move.
Second.
Whereas the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB, has put forth the pronouncement to differentiate and clarify fiduciary funds from government funds. Specifically, the objective of this statement is to improve guidance regarding the identification of fiduciary activities for accounting and financial reporting purposes. Whereas GASB is the source generally accepted accounting principles used by state, local, and governments. Whereas the town comptroller, with the assistance from the town's independent auditing firm, have determined various trust and agency accounts should be recognized as governmental funds or custodial accounts within the general fund in accordance to the definitions provided by GASB 84. Now be it resolved that the following attached reconciliations of various trust and agency accounts be completed. For the record, Mr. Supervisor, there are 3 different categories of accounts ranging from $12,930 to $92,271 and $114,681 into various accounts with various descriptions of each. Thank you.
Okay. Additional questions or comments? The importance of this is that there are a number of accounts where we may get an escrow. It could be for driveway, it could be for trails, something like that. And what happens is some of those dollars will sit in there and not be totally reconciled. And so, for example, we have trails in that particular line item, 94 cents, and it dates back to several years. So this is an opportunity to report that out properly under the accounting standards, put that into the appropriate account, and zero that particular line item out. So again, as we go through, towns and governmental agencies have to account for every single cent, literally every single cent, because it's taxpayers' money, and we have to make sure that if we're moving it from an account to another account, that we have to track that, and we do that typically by town board resolution, because then the auditors can follow the trail, if you will, to make sure that the monies get placed in the proper areas. Seeing no further discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler? Aye. Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes. 2019 budget transfers and amendments.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas transfer of funds are necessary for anticipated expenditures and reconciliations as year-end approaches. Whereas the registrations for programs at the Recreation Department require an increase in appropriations from program fees collected. Whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to current income and expenditures. Now be it resolved that the following budget transfers are approved. For the record, Mr. Supervisor, there's 12 budget transfers in 12 different accounts, ranging from park security to events, to daytime education at recreation, that's the DEER program, senior programs, youth soccer, youth sports, adult sports, and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. Again, this is a case that if the town in a particular department budgets $10,000 for medical, and if they spend $10,010, what they need to do is they need to account for that. We just can't automatically raise the budget amount once we've adopted our budget. So what happens is, in that particular case, we were running under in parks security. We were able to take money from that account and put it over to medical. At the end of the day, the budget remains the same, but the line item, all of the line items zero out by way of balancing it at the end of the day. Seeing no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler? Aye. Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes. 2019 budget amendments in general fund for donations to recreation.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the Recreation Department received the following donations for the DEER program, that's daytime education at recreation, in the months of May through November 2009, totaling $1,405. There were 13 specific donations during that time period. And whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to current appropriations and revenues, be it resolved that the following 2019 budget amendment be approved. From the DEER program in $1,405 to the appropriations programs for the aging in the DEER program for $1,405. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Discussion. See no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler? Aye. Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes. Budget amendment for the box field creation at Rothfuss Park.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town solicited sealed bids for field development, materials, and installation of a boxed athletic field at Rothfuss Park, and whereas the town received grant funding through Senator Funke for a portion of this project totaling $80,000. Now be it resolved, this project was the development of town parkland for recreational purposes. The board hereby authorizes the appropriation of $17,775 from the town's Recreation Trust Special Revenue Fund as an amendment to the 2019 budget.
Thank you. Discussion. So here was a case that we did receive some money from Senator Funke to build this. We knew that the amount that he was able to give us wasn't going to cover the full amount. We do have this rec trust fund. We can use that to acquire land, develop facilities and things like that. So in this particular case, we're taking $17,775 from that account to make up the difference, which completed our box field over at Rothfuss Park. Okay, seeing no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign recreation contracts.
So moved.
Second.
This resolution authorizes the town supervisor to sign 8 recreation contracts, and they're all dealing with different activities taking place in the spring. I saw today, it was posted on Facebook, the new recreation brochure is available online. It hasn't come in the mail yet, but it should be coming any day. So these are the kind of programs that'll be in the brochure.
Okay, great, thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right, this brings us to old business. Is there any old business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, is there any new business to come before the board this evening? Again, seeing none, this brings us to our second public participation. Anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any matter?
Real quick. I just wanted
Thank you. It keeps our friends downstairs who want to make sure we capture all this good information, so thank you.
And if you could give us your name.
I'm Kenny's father, Ken Jacoby. I live in Penfield, and I have seen all of your faces at our Scouts Eagle ceremonies, and I just want to thank you very much for participating in that honor throughout the years. That's all I had to say.
Oh, thank you.
We love our Eagle
Much
Scouts.
appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is much appreciated as well. Okay, seeing no further business to come before the board, the December 4th, 2019 legislative session will stand adjourned at 8:23 p.m. The next legislative session will be on December 18th. Thank you very much for everyone that participated. Thank you to Penfield TV. Have a great evening, and for those who we may not see before the end of the year, have a great holiday season.